Let's talk about Bitcoin. Is it digital gold, a new kind of payment system, or something else entirely? For years, the whole debate has been stuck on this, like it has to be one or the other. But what if the answer is bigger, way more complex, and honestly, a lot more interesting? Today, we're going to tear down a new idea, that Bitcoin is actually evolving into the world's final settlement layer.
All right, let's just dive right into it with a question that might sound a little crazy. What if everything you've heard is a weakness? That it's too slow, it uses too much energy, it's too volatile. What if all of that is actually a deliberate design choice? What if it's a feature, not a bug? Just keep that question in the back of your mind, because by the end of this, you're going to see how those so-called flaws are the very foundation of its power.
To really get Bitcoin, you have to understand the problem it was built to solve. And for that, we've got to go back in time. Back to 2008, to a world that was pretty much on the brink of a total financial collapse.
So, the 2008 crisis, it wasn't just a market crash. It was a complete and total crisis of trust. Think about it. The entire global financial system was built on one thing. You had to trust third parties, banks, governments, to handle your money. But when those same institutions took insane risks, failed spectacularly, and then got bailed out with our money, that trust just evaporated. The world was primed for an alternative, a system that didn't rely on people who could mess up, but on math that you could verify yourself.
And this right here, this perfectly captures that moment. This isn't just some random quote. It's a message, a coded manifesto, really, that Bitcoin's anonymous creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, embedded into the very first block of the entire network. It's a permanent digital fossil that basically says, "This is why I exist. I was born from the failures of the old system."
And from that single block, the network started its journey. In 2010, some early programmer proved it could actually work in the real world by paying 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. A year later, it hit 1-to-1 with the US dollar. And by 2013, it had blown past $1,000, grabbing the entire world's attention. Yeah, the experiment was very quickly becoming a real asset.
But as Bitcoin grew, so did the controversies. Its biggest challenges started to pop up, and each one felt like a paradox that could threaten its whole future. But were they really flaws, or were they just features that nobody understood yet?
Okay, so the first major fight was something called the block size wars. You had big companies and miners who wanted to increase the network's capacity to make it faster and cheaper, more like Visa. But the user community fought back, hard. They argued that doing that would centralize power, because it would make it too expensive for regular people to run their own nodes. And in the end, the community won. They chose decentralization over speed, and that was a huge decision that would basically define Bitcoin's destiny.
Then there's the energy debate. And look, the numbers are huge. Bitcoin uses about 0.5% of the world's electricity. And yeah, studies showed a heavy reliance on fossil fuels. But here's where it gets really interesting. A fascinating counter-narrative is starting to emerge. See, because miners can set up shop anywhere with an internet connection, they're in this unique position to buy the absolute cheapest power on Earth. That often means stranded renewable energy that literally has no other buyer, or even capturing waste methane gas from flaring and turning it into value. And of course, you can't talk about Bitcoin without someone bringing up that it's criminal money. In 2023, there was an estimated $24.2 billion in crypto tied to illicit activity. That is a massive headline-grabbing number. But context is everything. That massive number, it represents just 0.34% of all crypto transactions. And get this, thanks to the public, traceable nature of the blockchain, it's actually become a really powerful tool for law enforcement. Bitcoin isn't anonymous, it's pseudonymous. It creates a permanent evidence trail that has literally been used to take down major criminal networks. So with all these paradoxes floating around, how does Bitcoin actually hold up when it meets the real world? Let's look at 2 big case studies that show both where it's succeeded and where it's failed.
First up, MicroStrategy. The CEO, Michael Saylor, looked at the cash on his company's balance sheet and basically saw a melting ice cube because of inflation. So what'd he do? He adopted Bitcoin as his main treasury asset. And for this one job, acting as a long-term store of value, it has been a spectacular success. A perfect product-market fit for the whole digital gold idea.
But then you have El Salvador. The country made Bitcoin legal tender, for buying coffee, for paying bills, for everything. And for this job, it pretty much failed. Adoption is still incredibly low. Why? Well, because the very same volatility that makes it such an attractive investment for MicroStrategy makes it a terrible currency for your daily expenses. It was simply the wrong tool for the job. And this is where the story pivots hard. All those failures and limitations we just talked about in Act 2, they aren't the end of the story. They just set the stage for Bitcoin's great metamorphosis. And it's all being powered by technology that is completely changing the game.
Say hello to the Lightning Network. It's what's called a Layer 2 protocol. Okay, think of it like this. The main Bitcoin blockchain is a solid bedrock foundation. The Lightning Network is like a whole new layer of superhighways built right on top of it. It's designed to handle all the fast, cheap, high-volume traffic that the bedrock below simply can't.
The idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of broadcasting every tiny little transaction to the entire world, two people can open a private channel just between them. That takes one on-chain transaction. Then, inside that channel, they can send money back and forth instantly for fractions of a penny, as many times as they want. When they're all done, they close the channel, and only the final balance gets settled back down to the main chain.
And the result is, well, it's staggering. Just look at this comparison. Bitcoin's base layer is slow. It takes about an hour for a transaction to be final. But on Lightning, it's instant. Milliseconds. The base layer can cost you a few dollars. Lightning costs are fractions of a cent. And for speed, transactions per second, the base layer can handle maybe 7. Lightning can theoretically handle millions. It's not just an improvement, it's a completely different class of payment system.
So this dual-layer setup brings us to our core idea here. Bitcoin isn't just one thing. It's a really sophisticated, multi-layered system that's designed for two totally different jobs.
Layer 1, the main blockchain, that's the bedrock. It's slow, it's heavy, and it's incredibly secure by design. Its job is final settlement for huge, important transactions where you need absolute certainty and you need it to be censorship resistant. It's like the network's supreme court.
And Layer 2, the Lightning Network, that's the vibrant, bustling city built on top of that bedrock. This is where all the daily commerce happens. Fast, cheap, and super scalable. But that city can only exist because of the absolute, unshakable stability of the foundation underneath it. And that is the key. Those trade-offs are the entire point. We can finally answer our original question. Bitcoin's slowness isn't a flaw, it's the price you pay to achieve security across a global, decentralized network. Its high energy use isn't waste, it's the physical cost of making the history book practically impossible to change. They are essential features of the bedrock.
And the world's most sophisticated investors, they're finally starting to take notice. The launch of spot Bitcoin ETFs in the US has been one of the most successful in history, pulling in tens of billions of dollars in institutional cash. They're not buying a failed payment app, they're buying a piece of what they believe is a new global settlement layer.
So let's just put it all together. The thesis is this. Layer 1 is cementing its role as the world's ultimate settlement layer for the big stuff. Layer 2 is becoming the high-speed network for global, everyday commerce. So Bitcoin isn't digital gold or a payment network. It's evolving into a complete monetary system that is both.
Which, of course, leads us to the final question. Is this whole dual-layer system the inevitable foundation for a new, digitally native financial architecture? Or is it just a really fascinating experiment that's ultimately going to fail? The answer isn't written yet, but for the first time, the architecture, the blueprint, is finally becoming clear. I'd love to know what you think down in the comments.